This is Shalini Sankarshna, everyone. Welcome. It's my pleasure to introduce Anand Sudarshan. He's the founder and CEO of Sylvant Advisors. He advises companies and entities in education sector. We can't get better than him for this session. And Krishna Kumar, he's founder and CEO of Simply Learn. Everybody knows of this platform. It's one of the world's leading certification providers. He's really working on making learning accessible and personalized. A serial entrepreneur, again, a great speaker to have for us on this session. Just a quick context on what we are going to be talking about. With the latest focus on digital education, both with the current pandemic as well as even without that, and the government introducing the PM E-Vidya program and Diksha program, there's a huge focus and opportunity for learning in Bharat through digital and online mode. And today what we are going to be looking at is two key tracks. One is what we're calling as digital vocational skilling, essentially looking at how do you identify, create and grow employability, and for which you need digital skills. And second being even more fundamental, which is digital survival skills. It is almost needed for every Bharatvasi as our whole life is getting digitized. And through this conversation, Anand and Krishna are going to talk to us about how relevant, how absolutely critical these skills are today, and how can they present as a business opportunity, and what's really needed of the ecosystem. So over to Anand. Anand will be moderating this as a conversation. Anand, Krishna, great to have you here.
All right, Shalini, thank you very much. Many thanks to Nipun, nasscom, and all you netizens. Nipun for inviting us, nasscom for hosting us, and all you netizens for choosing Krishna and I to hear us, to come and speak to you. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. It's a pleasure and honor to be with all of you, and it's a great pleasure to be in conversation with Krishna, one of the most exciting entrepreneurs in the learning space in India. I've been watching Simply Learn and what they have been doing with a great interest from the sidelines. We've had a few conversations, he and I, and I believe that what he has brought to the table with Simply Learn and what they have approached is not just refreshing and not just leading, but it's also a representative of a singular change agent as far as skills development, skills learning is concerned, globally speaking. So it's a phenomenal job, Krishna. So congratulations to start with.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you.
All right, so to set off the conversation, I thought we'll take the first part of the two things that Shalini spoke first, which is the digital survival skills, and I just wanted to get your thoughts in integrating with the K through 12 side of the equation. What we will try and do is to keep the conversation for about 20 minutes or so, give us a chance to listen to some questions from the audience as well. Clearly people stay in their homes, in rural areas, at homes, studying, going to school, probably till 10th grade, sometimes beyond that till 12th grade. But that's when they start moving, maybe go to a city to look for a job, get a skill, do higher education, whatever. So the big chunk of 300 plus million, 320 million students in India in K through 12 education are in rural areas, as we all know, right? So I was just contemplating the point that Shalini made about digital survival skills. It seems to me that to bring digital survival skills, which I will define as the fundamental skills that are required for us to survive in tomorrow's world, actually today's world as well, but increasingly in tomorrow's world, right? I'll define those as digital survival skills. It seems to me that it is logical to have it tightly incorporated, kind of interwoven into the DNA of K through 12 education, and extend that beyond K through 12, beyond those kids, to embrace and encompass their parents as well in the evenings and so on and so forth in the same school campuses. People like Google, Rajan spoke a little earlier, run very successful programs, Google Sati and others. So it's not something that is impossible to do, but let me start with that. Do you think something like that makes sense, and is that something which could be an approach towards creating that set of digital survival skills that are required for tomorrow?
So Anand, thank you. I think that's a very valid and important point. But so my experience is a little different. Say, being associated with Bharat, I grew up in a small village. Spent my till fifth grade in a village which was really remote, and still being very closer to my native place. I could very confidently tell you that this digital survival skills that we're talking about actually it's not relevant for those K-12 kids because they are already digital savvy. You go to any village, any remote area in India, kids are very comfortable. The good thing that has happened with India is that mobile has penetrated in a big way. People might not have money to do a lot of things, but they have money to recharge their phone. They're playing with the phone, they're watching video. So those kids don't require those survival skills that we say that basic awareness of digital. I think that skills is required for people who have already moved out of the school of the education system, and maybe they are into various kinds of job, be it farming or be it anything else. They might require that more, but these kids might not require. I think they are already digital born anywhere in the country. I was talking about the other day when we were connecting is that I did check out in my village that now that schools are closed, how are kids getting educated? I was surprised to know that even in villages, and I'm talking about real remote village in Bihar, is that the schools are still open. And schools are using all kinds of mechanism to ensure that classes are going on. One of the mechanism was that they don't have such a good connectivity, so there's no live class happening, but teacher sends them some assignment on phone, even on a regular phone. Kids are supposed to complete that assignment and send it back. So there is some kind of lag or some kind of mechanism to keep the kids engaged. So imagine that they are already used to it, right? So I don't think that is required for them.
It's fantastic to hear. What's also interesting to me, and now let's just build on this just for another couple of minutes, then we'll move on to the other parts. What's also interesting to me is, to the previous session, I think it was Sonia who said that roughly about 50% of the phones that are being sold are feature phones and 50% are smartphones, or some such number. Roughly half is what I heard. And I could be wrong, but I think that's what I heard. Now, if half the phones are still feature phones, and it's natural for us to assume that the phones that children would be using in many instances in rural areas, as it is indeed in many instances in urban areas as well, are not their phones, but phones of their fathers, most instances, and some instances their mothers. Now, if that's going to be a feature phone, do we think that's going to be a block? And it's wonderful to hear what you said about teachers sending assignments and getting it back. But if it's going to be a feature phone, do you think that's going to be that's going to prevent digital to really seep into Bharat?
So actually, Anand, if you look at again, there are a lot of analogy, right? So a lot of kids in Bharat, they are also the real guys who know how to get things done, and they're also kind of jugadu, right? I might not have a feature phone, a smartphone at my home. Does not mean that I don't know how to use WhatsApp or how to access video. One of my neighbor might have a phone, so I think it might be a problem for maybe grown up, but for adults they know. I look at how many kids in India or their parents ever own two-wheeler, but go to Bharat and ask, do you know how to drive two-wheeler? Most of them say that I know how to drive. They don't necessarily mean that they had one in their homes, right? So I don't think kids are not a challenge when it comes to digital education. Is something that I have understood, right? Everywhere you go, they are very comfortable. They are used to it. But the skills that we're talking about, there's so much of cybersecurity fraud keeps happening because people don't know the difference between PIN and password. I think most of the time it is like elders who require that kind of education.
So I'll come to that. I think that's the last point that I wanted to make on this. In fact, the earlier point that you made, absolutely correct. I completely agree. And I was hoping you would share that. Kids are jugadus. They'll find a way, take somebody else's. In fact, 4 kids will get together on one smartphone.
Correct.
So there is a mini class that has started there. So there are different ways that they figure out how to overcome a given situation.
Like I remember, like as a kid, I didn't have television at home, but I always watched television because we used to go to our neighbor's house, maybe half a kilometer away, and then you see 20 people watching the same television. Right? So it was like
Krishi Darshan.
We were doing that. Definitely not Krishi Darshan, but we were watching Ramayana and Bharat when you don't have. People used to go and watch it at someone's place, and then you're always welcome. At least in Bharat, that you don't have that system wherein you have to ask someone and go at home, right? You just show up. Right?
It's our village in the true sense of the word. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
So the last question is really, a thought that I wanted to get from you was really relating to, therefore, elders. So last question on the digital survival skills. Is it possible for us to take the existing energy and the confidence that exists in students, their jugadu mentality and the infrastructure that's there, which is the schools, and then use that in some way to get the adults become more digitally savvy? Do you think there are some ideas there?
So Anand, I think somebody will figure that out. Like I was saying, that there is a need to educate adults, because a lot of things are happening all across the world. And you just spoke about Krishi Darsan. That's a very, very useful information, but produced in a format which is very, very difficult to bear for many people, right? But the information is very, very useful, right? I'm sure at some point of time, somebody will figure it out a way of disseminating the same information in an engageable manner and get paid by somebody else. So today that model does not exist. It does not mean that it cannot be done, right? That's what entrepreneurship is all about. But somebody will figure it out a way of making it, doing it profitably. So my short answer is, it is going to happen. The good thing about education in general is that, if you see, you have been a veteran in this space. Education never attracted a lot of capital. The digital education, or in general private education, never attracted so much of capital. But it has changed. Last 2 years, I think it is the number one funded category, right? Now a lot of time I see investors saying that education is the next e-commerce, where you have solved a lot of e-commerce related problem, because the ERP is higher, the market size is also higher, everybody needs it, so a lot of investment is getting into that area. Now
I agree with you.
some spillover of that will start getting into funding these non-traditional models. So I'm pretty optimistic that a lot of new education models will emerge that will start targeting Bharat. The good news about Bharat is that people have aspiration. If you go to even the remotest village where somebody is uneducated, if you ask them, what do you want, what is your wish in life, I think the consistent wish that you'll hear from all those people who live in Bharat, that I want to get my kids educated. So there is an upside, and people sell their lands to send their kids for education. So I'm sure a lot of good models will exist as we go further.
Excellent. So, I mean, you're absolutely right about the amount of money education has attracted. And of course, a significant chunk of it is Byju's. But even if you remove Byju's and take the rest of the money, it will be, I suppose, in the top 3. And in fact, the fact that, we talked about investments, and I'm going to talk about that right in the end, and therefore going to ask Shalini, just give us a ping when you're at about 18, 19 minutes, so that, we'll leave enough time for questions. Quickly moving. So you made a statement that people have aspirations there. So I was actually writing a sentence just to try and reflect my own experience of the number of people. I come from a small town myself, not rural area, not a village, but a small town. And I understand the difference that exists between metro, folks in metro areas and perhaps many other parts of India. And the phrase that I wrote down was, kids are aspiration full, right? They are perspiration ready, right? Which means they are ready to do hard work. They really don't have a problem, and they are really seeking inspiration and an avenue to succeed. Do you agree with this? And if this is something that you agree with, or a variation of it, does this open up in your mind entrepreneurial opportunities in this area in digital education?
Actually, Anand, I was not able to hear. Can you just repeat that line again? I think in between it broke.
So I was just saying that the definition of students is full of aspiration, ready to work very hard, ready to perspire, but seeking an avenue or seeking inspiration. Now, is this a fair reflection of the Bharat youngster? And if it is so, do you think this is good enough? Good enough a trigger for entrepreneurs to build scalable businesses, or think or dream of building scalable businesses?
So Anand, I completely agree with your definition. The way we have looked at the youngsters in Bharat, I think all those three things that you talked about, I completely agree that does exist. And I'm sure there will be a lot of big businesses that will get built, right? People can always figure it out a model of making money if there are people who are ready to use your product and service. The other good news is that what Rajan spoke about, that the average income is growing. It's not that the average income is not growing. The average income is growing, right? The average income is growing, right? So that will also over time help people to start monetizing some of the product and services that they'll build to target these users?
I think it's very quickly.
So
Let me ask you this.
short answer is that I don't know the answer today, but I'm sure some smart person will figure out the answer and he'll build a big business. Right?
That's the answer I was really expecting, because if all the answers were available, why do we need entrepreneurs? You know, we will all be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And the power of the entrepreneur is in imagining solutions to problems, identifying the problems to start with, and imagining solutions and making them scalable and sustainable over a period of time.
Just starting on the gut feeling that I'll make something happen, right? And in the process, finding the solution. Many times entrepreneurs don't know the answer, but they start in a good faith that I will figure it out, right? So I think that's one beauty of entrepreneurship.
Let's just quickly move to the area that you operate a lot on. And I want to tie it in with the Bharat consumer, Bharat student. You work on the area of career education. People who go through your programs, your courses, your certificates that they get, you are directly targeted towards a career that's being built. Now, yours is in one area, which is an IT, but if you can just broaden your mind and then look at career education as a whole, and I'm sure you must be having more than IT. I mean, I've been tracking you for a while. What is the role that these, I believe that companies like you are magnets, they attract students. So far they were attracting students literally, physically. You know, people wanted to go and study in an NIT, class, for example, so they had to physically move. Now they are attracting over the net to study at Simply Learn and places like that. What is really going to be the move tomorrow? How is career education going to pan out? And I just want you to add to that two other points, right? If career education is going to pan out, it's an important thing to be practically trained. There is the skills part of it that needs to be incorporated. Now, IT, there is a way to do that, but non-IT, just reflect on it. And second is the role of English.
So, Anand, again, we spoke about it yesterday. See, my firm belief is that one of the key factors that defines India and Bharat, the boundary, is English. So, if there can be more and more entrepreneurs who start targeting, so you should not really look at English just as a language. You need to look at English as a skill. If you can impart English skill to a lot of Bharat users,
right.
I think that provides a lot of job opportunity, career opportunity for them that's currently not available to them at this point of time. So I think that alone is a huge opportunity. A lot of people are already trying to get into, and there's a space for more and more people to go and look at that as a problem and try to build a solution. Now, when you talked about like what form this education will take, I think thanks to COVID in the last couple of months, this whole notion has already got broken, right? Well, everybody is learning online. Nobody is complaining. None of the schools and colleges are saying that, no, I'll reduce my fee because my education has suddenly become less efficient because now I moved online, right? And they were one of the barriers, right? They were the ones saying that, no, you can only learn in a physical setup. You can't learn online. But now everybody is saying that, no, I'm imparting really good education. So this has a long-term implication. I think that opens up a lot of other possibilities, right? A lot of schools, we always used to also talk about that we don't have enough number of schools and colleges in our country to serve the entire population. Now imagine if you can have a mechanism wherein a part of the learning also starts happening online and only a part happens in schools and colleges. That opens up so much of capacity to do a lot of other things in the same center that we are not today doing. So
in fact, it was very interesting because
models will come up in my view. I think it's a matter of time. Next 1 or 2 years, we'll see a lot of entrepreneurs getting into this area. Like when e-commerce also was booming, you saw a lot of people started trying e-commerce venture. Now that education is booming, you'll see many entrepreneurs trying to find out some other avenues of making a profitable education business.
Just this morning, I had a conversation with a vice chancellor, a relatively young vice chancellor of a young university, very open-minded person with whom he's been talking to me for the last couple of years, pushing me very hard periodically, saying, what else should I do, Anandji? Keeps asking me. And we had a good conversation today, and I was just telling him this whole notion that everybody has to come to your four walls. I've been telling them for a long time, 2.5 years now, actually. I think it's now dated, and COVID has just shown it. I've been telling you, COVID has just demonstrated it. I didn't have the power to demonstrate. COVID had the power to demonstrate to you, saying it's really not needed to come. So now I am told that reliable sources suggest that regulators are going to allow up to 40% of the courses to be officially offered through non-physical mode, which means it's online. in different kind of forms, which is, by the way, great news. And you should start looking at it as a business opportunity for yourself. And I was telling him that this is a thesis that I've been, Mohandas Pai and I did some work some years ago, which found that we needed to increase our gross enrollment rate from where it is to, let's say 70%. We needed a total investment of 8 lakh crores, right? Is the total money that was needed over a 15-year period. Now, that's a lot of money. It's not that money is not there in India, but it's still a lot of money. And one of the things that came up at that point in time itself onward was this thing I've been saying: why are the infrastructure to be used only for 3-4 hours a day? Why can't it be used for 8 hours a day? Now, it does happen in places like Mumbai, but why can't it happen across the country? And one way by which you can double is actually offer half the courses online, which means the requirement for the student to actually come and not miss out on the engagement and the relationships and other things that require an in-person kind of a presence can still be achieved while doubling the capacity without adding any physical infrastructure. The only infrastructure that you will add is technology and obviously faculty, because its faculty work will be, a lot more time will be needed from the faculty. So I think you are absolutely right. There is a whole slew of opportunities that will be thought up. The opportunities are there now, especially because of COVID and the work that's happened in India in building the digital infrastructure. And I think good entrepreneurs will recognize this. There are investment avenues that are available. VCs are beginning to realize, as you rightly pointed out, the money that's going into education is quite a bit. And there are VCs who just won't invest in a model that somebody else has invested in. So I think entrepreneurs should have heart, and they should have the confidence that they would be able to raise money. Maybe we should stop here. And Shalini, are there any questions that we can take?
Yes, and thank you so much, Anand and Krishna. I mean, it was so riveting for me. I mean, I almost lost track of questions. So I think I just made a note of the top 3 points I think we discussed just for this audience. One thing is the problem is not about solving for kids, but it's for grown-ups, because I think kids can manage. Second is whatever we have developed so far, content needs to get better. So I think Krishi Darshan was the example. I absolutely love the line, aspiration full, perspiration ready, seeking inspiration. I think it's very clear that is our demographic. And most importantly, opportunity seems to lie a lot in the education sector, because physical is no longer the only mode. So I think that was a great session. So let me go back to questions. We will take probably 2 questions from the audience. Parul Siddiqui mentions that he found the insights by Krishna, especially about the emerging business models in education, very relevant. He wants us to, Krishna, to share some more insights on that. And what are the business models you think would emerge with the current scenario?
Yeah, so thanks, Shalini. So let me also admit, see, if I knew a business model that will appeal to Bharat and can make money, I would have been doing that also on the side. So let's accept the fact that if you are an entrepreneur and you're excited about this space, you need to get in, and you over time will figure that out. That nobody knows the exact answer. So my current feeling is that we gave that example in context of this and that government is producing some content. The content inherently is good, but not produced in a manner that you enjoy interacting with. But now there are a lot of different kinds of player who are targeting the same agriculture as a sector and farmer as a sector. You can produce a content and get sponsored by someone, right? So that can be one model, right? There's a fertilizer company that has some product that can make the produce better, and at the same time you want to teach people, educate farmers on how the right mix of fertilizer can be good for a certain crop. So those things you can marry, and we have seen that this model works, right? YouTube, they don't pay for the content, but look at, there are so many different people who are ready to pay for advertise on YouTube, so they make a lot of money, right? So similar, why can't we have a YouTube equivalent just targeting Indian farmers, right? There are ecosystem players who can sponsor that. So like that, there are multiple models that can exist.
Thank you, Krishna. This question I think is for Anand. In fact, couple of related questions. One from Anshuman Patro. He expresses that education sector in India is very skewed towards more well-to-do population, and is there a way government should play a role in regulating this industry much more so that it can really spread far and wide? And a related question from Dhaval, which talks of, especially with the example of mobile intervention, how much of social media can play a role in digital skills for adults? So Anand Krishna.
All right. So let me start with the first one. I am of the personal view, having been in this sector for a while. Regulation is actually many times the enemy of innovation. And if there is a problem with the education sector in India, in many senses, not all, regulation is required, don't get me wrong, but in many senses, we are over-regulated and under-governed. And that's been the big issue, as far as the education sector is concerned. The point that you are making is absolutely valid. There has to be far better equity when it comes to education across the country. Nobody will deny it, and I will be the first. I have actually seen multiple parts of India, gone to places where there is real islands of excellence. It's just that equity is not there and they are not shining as they ought to. So you're absolutely right, equity is needed. I think the way to bring equity is through innovative use of technology, because some of the problems that we have in bringing equity in the country are societal in nature. They have been incorporated into the psyche of our society for centuries, right? It will take time to change. Now we have two choices. One is to throw up our hand and say, hey, this is all the problem that we are facing. How is it going to change? Or take the tools in our hand. Right now it's technology. Right now it so happens because of COVID, there is this acceptance. Right now, the government waking up, I have personally gone and fought at multiple levels for years to have them even insert the word technology into regulation. Nothing happened. COVID happened. 40% of the courses can be online. Overnight, it's changed. Okay, but to be very fair, it started happening a little before COVID, but COVID accelerated it like anything. The point I'm trying to make is Winston Churchill said, never let a good crisis go waste. So you got a good crisis in our hand that's opened up opportunities. Use those, take and run with it. Equity will get resolved by itself. I think the entrepreneur's job is to make sure that the opportunity is grabbed with both hands, produce something of value, deliver it with consumer fully in your heart and mind, and sustain it over a period of time and keep improving. When you do that, things like equity have a habit of settling down by itself. Of course, you should continue to be societally aware, but it'll have a habit of settling down by itself. Not a 100% satisfactory answer, I'm sure, but I think for people who want to be entrepreneurs, this is the way to look at it. Krishna, you want to add something?
Yeah, I completely second you, Anand, that see, if you are an entrepreneur and you want to go after a problem, having very clear sight of what the solution is, believe me, it never happens. It never happens in reality. In reality, you love the problem, you want to solve the problem, and you'll figure it out a solution. Maybe the first solution will not work, but if you persist, you'll find another way of solving the same problem that you thought the previous solution will work, but maybe the next solution will work. So,
thank you so much.
I think the key.
Absolutely. I think persistence is the key. Thanks again, and for a wonderful session, Anand Krishna.